Known as the Pearl of the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka has so much to offer visitors. The country is a fantastic place to explore. This is Katie from Creative Travel Guide, and today we are sharing things to know before you go to Sri Lanka. Looking for more travel tips? Make sure to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. So firstly, let's look at visas. Most visitors will need a visa to enter Sri Lanka. In fact, only those from the Maldives, Seychelles and Singapore can visit Sri Lanka without a visa. These can be purchased online before your trip, printed and given to the immigration officers. You can also obtain a visa on arrival, but the entry process is long. So the next thing to know about Sri Lanka is that the tourism growth is happening now. Sri Lanka is steadily becoming a tourist destination, but isn't yet widespread. Although the capital of Colombo has touristy areas and a vast selection of hotels to choose from, other areas aren't quite ready for tourists. Expect narrow roads outside of the city, little English spoken, less convenience stores and restaurants that will serve Western food. Although this does make Sri Lanka slightly harder to travel, it also gives you a really good insight into the country before all of the tourists get there. Which is a reason why as soon as we can start travelling again, you should definitely head to Sri Lanka. The next thing to know about the country is that it can be expensive. So to be fair, Sri Lanka is a pretty cheap destination most of the time, but there are times where it will become quite expensive. So avoid buying imported foods and alcohol, stick to local hotels and restaurants for budget-friendly options. Also, make sure to shop around if you are looking for a tour or a package holiday. These can be really expensive if you don't know where to look. We will leave some really good, helpful links in the description below. Our next tip is to use a private driver. So because the country is slowly developing its tourism and there are some stressful driving conditions, we do not recommend that you drive your own car. Instead, you will find it easier to hire a driver to get around Sri Lanka rather than driving yourselves. There are personal tour guides available and most hotels can help you arrange one for your trip. Our next tip is to take the train instead of the bus. There are some Sri Lanka train routes that offer pleasant trips and that are much more enjoyable than the bus. You can enjoy scenic landscapes on the journey and the ride is cheap and comfortable as well. Just make sure to book those tickets in advance because this train route is very popular. Our next tip is to eat the local food. So Sri Lankan food is amazing. Make sure to try the fresh crab curry and the local teas. You will find it harder to find Western food in Sri Lanka compared to other Asia destinations, so make sure to stick with the local food during your trip. Our next tip is to not drink the tap water. So make sure to stick with bottled water as the tap water is not safe to drink. It is also recommended that you get the Hep A and typhoid vaccinations before visiting Sri Lanka to protect yourself from contaminated food and water. The next thing you have to do whilst you're in Sri Lanka is to see the wildlife. There is more to Sri Lanka than cities and temples. Head to the safaris and varied landscapes to watch a glimpse of the breathtaking animals available. The Yala National Park is in the south and has the highest concentration of leopards in Asia. There are lots of different national parks to choose from. Again, we will leave some links in the description below, but make sure you head to at least one of these to see some animals during your trip. The next thing you need to know is when to visit Sri Lanka, so make sure to avoid monsoon season. Although you can visit Sri Lanka all year round, there are 2 monsoon seasons which affect different areas of the country. From October to January, the northern and eastern areas of Sri Lanka experience rain and wind, whilst the southern and western areas will experience monsoon weather from May to September. That means that December through to March is peak tourist season, so you can visit at this time, but we actually recommend visiting in November or April time in those shoulder months to get cheaper prices and less tourists. So we hope you have an amazing time in Sri Lanka. Let us know where you are heading to in the comments below. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please make sure you give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe. Have a wonderful trip, stay safe, and until next time, stay creative.